Okay, we'll call the Board of Supervisors meeting for July 24th, 2023 to order. Do a quick roll call. Supervisor Lewis. Present. Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Ayers.
Here.
Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
And Supervisor McDaniel's present as well. We will now have a prayer for the board followed by a pledge of allegiance. Those attending not required to participate, but if you'd like to join us, please stand.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings and ask you to continue to watch out for all the citizens of Rockbridge County and to instill in the supervisors the wisdom and the courage to make the right decision. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will hold citizen comments near the beginning of the meeting. We will do our best to take citizen comments remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial into the number listed on the county website. The webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Recognitions and presentations. I believe we have the Letter Cup Award. This is Mr.
Good evening, Chairman McDaniel, members of the board. Thank you for allowing us to take a few moments to recognize the winner of this year's Litter Cup. As you're aware, each spring, citizens take part in the Litter Cup Challenge to help clean up, unfortunately, some of the litter that we see on our byways. And this year we have a three-peat. The winner of the Litter Cup was, again, the Litter Eliminators. And if you guys will join me up front, this group is made part by Jenny and Larry Keel, Leslie Lee, Brandon Spalding, Dakota Hevner, and Mike and Nancy Reif. I think some of them couldn't join us tonight, but we do have the majority of the group. This group spent 8 days collecting litter along the Route 60 corridor, both east and west. They went up the Route 11 bypass and on Route 11 out to the Tractor Supply and all the way down south to Possum Hollow Road. So they spent a good many days collecting, and they were able to collect 132 bags of trash, 132 bags of trash, of litter, 14 tires, 1 phone cable spool, and then a wheelbarrow. So they had a eclectic grouping of litter that they picked up, but we are thankful for their efforts to help beautify our county. And I think they deserve a round of applause this evening. So, Jenny?
I'm Leslie, but I'll
Oh,
take
Leslie,
it.
she's on behalf. We award you again the Litter Cup. If you guys want to get a quick picture, if you'll go right up to the dais here with the board and we'll take a quick photo.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank y'all so very much.
Yeah, come on over. Two big guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all. Not sure whether to be amazed or ashamed. 132 bags of trash.
That's his route home, so.
All right, next up, we have citizen comments. Is there anyone signed up to address the board?
Yes, we have one person, Catherine Siegel.
evening. I am Catherine Siegel, and I want to first thank everyone who came to work out the issue or try to begin to work out with Echo Adesso's permits. Mr. J, thank you so much. Ms. Ayers, thank you. Mr. Suter, and everyone else who participated. I have some preemptory requests, which I don't know which way it's going to go, so I figured this is the right way to do this. My first question is going to be, and maybe these have to be tabled until you actually discuss the situation, but will Echo Adesso, or has Echo Adesso indicated that they will engage in acoustical experts to reduce sound transmission from their open metal roof outdoor pavilion? That's first. Second one is, will any conditions imposed on the Echo Adesso outdoor entertainment event permits going forward, if there's any conditions you impose, will they be recorded with the permits? And if recorded, will they apply for future permits for outdoor amplified music on that property? Or will the permits have to be revisited or renegotiated each year as they arise? Thirdly, what are the complaint processes and enforcement mechanisms in place to address any further concerns if they arise regarding this situation? So those are my questions. I hope I did this right, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McDaniel, we also have Chris Wise.
Okay. Please step forward, state your name, magisterial district, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Chris Wise, South River District. And what was the third?
You could just your time limit, 3
Okay.
minutes.
Good evening. My name is Chris Wise. I live at 423 Sheep Creek Lane in Fairfield and would like to comment on Echo Adesso's application to allow amplified music at their business. I'm not opposed to Echo Adesso having amplified music there at their business if there is minor to zero noise trespass onto their property. This has not been the case in the past from amplified music that has recently been performed at Echo Adesso. So I'd like to know, or like the board to consider ways in which sound trespass from commercial entities across neighboring property lines can be controlled. If you wish to allow the Weatherlys to use live amplified music, I hope that you will consider the nearby neighbors and property owners' interests and come up with a way to establish this reasonable level if the applicant is not able to reach an agreement with the affected neighbors. We all live in a noisy world, what is sometimes extremely hard to enjoy the sounds of nature or experience silence. Sometimes I can hear the rumble of Interstate 81 or Route 11 when the interstate traffic is diverted. I also hear the trains going along South River and the shooting club, but I do not think the music from Echo Adesso needs to be loud enough to be heard at my house in order to be heard at the vineyard. Rockbridge County has already had a number of instances of nuisance noise from various commercial entities. So it may be a good time to think about how to deal with this issue. Some Virginia counties have dealt with the issue of noise trespass from commercial enterprises and have set decibel limits at neighboring property lines. But enforcement of these limits can be difficult and sometimes litigious. So setting a reasonable level may be easier than the enforcement of such an ordinance. I thank you for your efforts for the county.
Thank you. Is there anyone else signed up?
No, sir.
All right, is there anyone present didn't have the opportunity to sign up wishing to address the board? All right, anybody online wishing to address the board?
No one with a hand raised.
Okay. All right, at this time, we'll move on to the approval of the June 26, 2023 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Is there any questions, comments, or a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right. Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
yes.
Mr. Day,
I'll abstain.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
And I'll abstain as well. Next up, we have consideration of school appropriation resolution. Mr. Harrison.
Yes, The school's appropriations for this period amounts to $430,166, and that's new grants and new funding.
Is there any questions for Mr. Harrison? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? So moved. Second,
Second.
Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have consideration of the county appropriation resolution. Mr. Harrison.
Yes, I'll keep it quick tonight. Our total appropriations, additional bills for this period is $1,280,299.09. And our additional appropriations request is $264,257. The additional appropriations are all carryovers from 2023, and there'll be some more carryovers next month. And provide some details in your written report on year-to-date revenue and expenses for your review. So if you have any questions, you can.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Harrison? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have consideration of the request to revisit conditions for the Echo Odesso outdoor events permit. Mr. Suter.
Yes, Echo Desert Vineyards submitted an outdoor events application for a series of outdoor music events, offering music at the pavilion 3 to 6 p.m. On some Saturdays and Sundays. And I believe some of them might have had 4 to 7, but sorry, I've just got down 3 to 6. A schedule is attached in the supplemental information in your package. This is an annual permit. The permit was approved by the board at its regular June 12th meeting, subject to the condition that outdoor music be acoustical only, based on concerns expressed over the level of sound reaching some neighbors. When issuing the permit, the board concurred and communicated that Echo Odesso should be able to return to the board's request for amendment should some resolution be reached with the neighbors. In an effort to assist in resolution, I did organize a test run, if you will, quote unquote, for Friday, July 14th. Supervisors Day and Ayers, as well as Assistant Director of Community Development, Neil Whitmore, were in attendance. I had planned to be there, but ultimately I ended up having to attend a funeral. Local musician and resident Stacy Stevens set up his guitar, voice microphone, and amplified sound system to conduct tests at varying sound levels and in 2 directional orientations. Supervisors Ayers and Day were positioned on neighboring properties to assess their interpretation of sound levels, and will likely share their takeaways from the testing this evening. Echo has subsequently asked to be placed on the agenda for consideration to amend their permit to allow for live amplified music. I believe Manager Tara Orball and Events Manager Katie Arlo are here this evening. I believe is the owner Michael Weatherly here? Okay. Okay. And as well as Mr. Stevens, saw back here as well. Again, the request from Echo is to amend the permit to allow for outdoor amplified music. And again, I know Mr. Wise is here, and I did forward the letter that I believe you read pretty much verbatim, I think, to the board earlier, and also another letter received on that from Laura Neal to all board members. And that's the extent of my presentation for right now.
Supervisor Ayers or Supervisor Day, any comments you wish to provide on your, while y'all were out there?
No, I was stationed on Sheep Creek Lane. I had my tape recorder there on the bed of a truck, and did not pick up any of the music at all. I could hear it with my ears. It wasn't recorded. The music was not as loud as the music that I would be playing if I was inside my pickup truck going down the road. And the radio traffic that was recorded on here was from Ms. Ayers and Neil Whitmore that was at the site. And she related that they heard no music at Ms. Siegel's location on Henry Hills. I'm personally inclined to agree to allow the amplified music. Ms. Orball has assured me that they will make sure that the decibel level is low enough as it was that day we were testing.
I was first stationed at Catherine Siegel's house, and in fact, we couldn't hear anything, not at all. And then at Chris Wise or Neil's house, there, and it was definitely audible. You could hear even the song the first time around. What was encouraging to me is when it was turned, the amplification was turned back towards the 360 acres, that it really made, to me, it made a very big change. Now, I will let the owners speak to whether they found that level tolerable, but the difference between the positioning of the amplification was really a big deal for me. And it really did show, and I can see why in the past you might have gotten yourself into trouble with the neighbors, because if you pointed those speakers toward your neighbors off that hill on that hay wagon, that at that point what you're trying to do is have it loud enough so people can hear you in the pavilion. That doesn't seem to be a good plan. Why not have it in the pavilion facing towards your 360 acres? And then you're most likely to be successful. I don't think the homeowners, I don't think anybody wants people not to be able to enjoy music. But from my point of view, I don't want the neighbors to have to not be able to enjoy their property. And I think that the solution exists, right? I think there is a solution, and I think more solutions people have to be willing. And that, to me, I think, since a business, and in fact, a business is situated in what once did not have a business, it is it should be your responsibility to figure it out. And the solution is right there. You know, you have the solution. The biggest problem I have is I don't want our staff to, we don't have time to police everybody and make sure everybody does what they're supposed to do. Just that needs to be done. But what I really need to hear is a promise that you will take those that your amplification will be pointed towards your acreage turned around, that you will keep it under that level that and I think that you all agree that it was too loud, right? It was too loud in that pavilion for the people there. So if the levels drop, then it is really a win for the community, right? Everybody gets what they want. But I am inclined never to force somebody to listen to it's not just one concert. If you're having one a year, well, that would be one thing. But to have repeated music on a weekend when people want to be doing their thing, that's where I really hope that we can come to a good result. So that's where I am.
If you would just one second, Mr. Stevens, would you like to approach any comments you want to offer the board?
You have a question for me, I'm happy to answer.
Okay.
I would simply say
if you have to come forward to the podium. That's all right.
The only thing I would suggest is that you keep in mind, I agree with you. So the direction of the speakers in the second setup, your mid and high range frequencies are always directional. And you noticed immediately that there was a difference because the direction they were traveling was in the opposite direction from the neighbors. What can't change is the direction of low frequencies. They are omnidirectional. It doesn't matter which direction those speakers are pointing. But that's the only comment I have.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Okay, let's see here, Ms. Orbaugh or Ms. Harlow, who would like to come forward? Please come up to the podium and offer any comments you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Well, first of all, we started when Mr. Stevens started playing, we played at the maximum level, which we would never play that loud, just to see what we're working with from the directions of the neighbors' houses. We lowered that by about 10 decibels. And that was still at a level that I would say we would never, ever potentially play that in the pavilion just because of the volume. I'm perfectly fine just nixing the stage because I think that was the main issue, is it was out more in the air. So it traveled a little bit differently rather than keeping it within the pavilion. So we can always go even down a few more decibels, and I will be more than happy to, since Mr. Wise, you're the only house that it reached. If I will be more than happy for you to reach out to me on a regular basis, as I will you. If you would like, I would love to have a complete relationship and open communication to where if that is disturbing. I want to know. But like intentionally, we started a very high level, which wasn't able to be heard at Miss Siegel's house. Then we can go down about 20 decibels, which is an incredible amount. As far as the volume, and I certainly want to respect all of our neighbors and we have no intention to be a nuisance or disruptive. So yes, I will completely honor that and respect everyone.
So in terms of you commit to being in the pavilion,
Correct.
without
Without a doubt.
And can you commit to I know it might-
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
direction, you can commit
Absolutely.
to that.
Because within the pavilion, there's not that much of a difference, but I see how it travels and it can go into other directions. But we can certainly commit to the volume, the speakers being pointed back towards the house, not toward, which we do have the acreage, and not towards any of the neighbors' houses directly.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for either one? Problem? All right. Having heard all this, is there a motion to amend the permit which was granted in June?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well.
All
Thank you, everyone, for their assistance.
Can I just clarify that the motion is to amend to allow outdoor amplified music?
Yes. Okay. Mr. Day, is that your motion?
With the understanding that they will control the direction and
Certainly, without a doubt. And I do have the decibel meter on my phone and as well as the staff, so we can all monitor it and be conscious of it.
I'm just trying to make sure what actually goes into the permit, whether it's outdoor amplified music with a
Commitment from the
respect for the
owners.
neighbors.
Yeah.
Commitment from the owners of those things. Now, I think this gets to the question of Ms. Siegel said, well, how will we police this? How will we? If this doesn't work, then we're back to square one for the
Sure,
next year.
Sure, it will work.
Right.
It will work.
You have,
And
I have your word that you will make this work with these people.
of course,
100%,
absolutely.
Because we know that you all don't want to have to hear this and
Again.
all over the time, and we don't want the
No.
neighbors to have to hear it at their homes if they don't want to. So we want everybody just to be able to enjoy themselves, whether they're at the vineyard or at their own home.
but I
Sounds
would
good.
love to see the commitment in the document, but not enforce it. We're not going to go out there and enforce it. It's going to be
If
enforced
it's
by
in the
you
doc,
and your
if it's
neighbor.
in the document, I've got to enforce it.
We do have the right to revoke this and certainly not renew it when they come back the following year.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is it in the document or not?
My personal view is I don't see how we don't have the staff to do that. But, you know, the neighbors have heard them say they're going to work with them. They're saying they're going to work with them. It's in a public meeting. You know, if something happens that it doesn't, it's on y'all. You
Sure.
know, so that's my personal view as a member of the board. Anybody else?
Let's stay, it's your motion. It's just making sure. Is it,
They can have amplified music with the respect. Of their neighbors.
All right.
Do we need to go on another vote for that, or is that?
I think you probably need some clarifications on the motion, the seconds and the.
All right,
and the
so
vote.
we have a motion. Mr. Lewis, do you second that the way it's written?
If that's what Mr. Day proposes, I will
Okay.
keep my second.
So Mr. Day, vote on what you just read.
You call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Ms. Lyons,
yes.
and Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Appreciate all your
Yep.
time.
Thank you all for obliging me.
All right, next up, I am going to skip around a little bit. I believe we have Dr. Thompson here. We're going to skip down to number 14 to try to help him out with his time. Consideration to authorize Rockbridge County School Board to proceed with the Rockbridge County High School Innovation Center project. Let's see here. Is that Mr. Suter?
Yes. Rockbridge County School Division has been working towards the renovation and modernization of the Rockbridge County High School Innovation Center for more than 5 years. The board had originally intended to enter into the VPSA, Virginia Public School Authority spring pool or debt pool, and had authorized borrowing of up to $9 million for the project based on a pre-COVID estimate of 7.7 million construction costs. And in addition to A&E and soft costs. However, at its April 6th meeting, the board received an update from the architect for the construction estimate of over $12 million and determined to wait until bids were received and to further consider and potentially enter the VPSA's fall debt pool. On July the 6th, the schools did receive 3 responsive and responsible bidders with a low bid from Roanoke-based K&A Contracting LLC with a total construction cost of $14,097,698. Additionally, while the schools had applied for a school construction assistance grant from Virginia Department of Education and hoped to win an award of $1.2 million, it actually received double that amount in the sum of $2,409,570, which is fantastic. Including A&E and other soft costs, the total project cost would be $14,789,196. After subtracting the grant proceeds from the total, the amount needed to borrow would be $12,379,626. And based on the 1989 Rockbridge County High School Consolidation Agreement between the county and the city of Lexington, cost shares for capital upgrades at the time of at a project is authorized. And that cost split ratio is currently 82.77% or $10,246,616 Rockbridge County and 17.23% or $2.133009 million to Lexington. After review of several financing mechanisms and debt service schedule with county's financial advisor, Davenport and Company, the Finance Committee is recommending that the county borrow the full cost at $12,379,626. Annual debt service payments would be split on the ratio that I just described. And one point to note is this total does not include any project contingency. For illustrative purposes, an 8% contingency on construction, and that's just the construction, not the soft cost, is $1,127,816. And cost shares for any contingency between the city and the county would be on the same share, 88.1 or 0.77 and 17.23 respectively.
82.7.
I'm sorry, 82.77. The Finance Committee further recommends that rather than increasing the borrowing, any contingency be taken from the Rockbridge County Public Schools Capital Escrow Fund, which currently sits at just under 1.3 million. I've also spoken with Lexington City Manager Jim Hallett, who agrees with the scenario that I just described. At its regular July 11th meeting, the Rockbridge County School Board approved the low bid from K&A Contracting LLC and authorized a notice to proceed as early as July 25th, subject to funding approval by the Board of Supervisors tonight. I also attached an executive summary prepared by Davenport, which was again reviewed by the Finance Committee and forwarded to the rest of the board, as well as a cost summary sheet. The executive summary includes a borrowing schedule should the board authorize the project. RT Taylor with Davenport is with us via Zoom to present or to answer any questions that you might have, and is prepared to present anything on that. And of course, my recommendation is to pose any questions that you might have. I'd like to thank both Finance Committee, Davenport, and certainly Mr. Harrison for all the work put towards this, and also school staff for the work that they've put into it. And like I say, Dr. Thompson is here tonight as well.
Yeah, and the first thing I'd like to do is thank Rockbridge County Public Schools for applying for a grant and receiving it. That certainly helped with this project amount of 2.4 million. As far as the contingency, the escrow, that will be, I understand Rockbridge's share will come from the escrow, but Lexington share will be paid in cash by them, or some form will bill
In
them
some
for their
form,
portion.
yes, we
Okay.
invoice them their piece.
Okay. Is there any questions that anybody has for Davenport while they're on? Nope. Okay. Any questions you have for Mr. Suter or Dr. Thompson, who's here? Dr. Thompson, if you'd like to come forward to the podium. In case we have any.
This is more for Mr. Suter at the moment. Where is the answer to David's question? Where is that memorialized? That was the one question I had.
It's in the 1989 agreement.
How that Lexington City is going to handle their, if there are contingency invoices, that where is that written down somewhere? Will that be written down in?
It's not written down. This is the
It's in that
agreement between me
agreement.
and the city manager and I.
It's baked into that.
Yes.
As you said. Yes, sir. And I, again, thank you, Dr. Thompson, for the school's motivation and work to get that grant, and just that benefits Lexington City as well, because, you know, it's coming off the CTE section, the school, you know, the high school, it's coming off the top, so to speak. So it reduces the cost of the entire project. Yes.
One question, not really pertaining to this, what did it cost us to build the high school?
If I remember correctly, I think it was 13 million. And Dr. Lyons, you might,
13.2.
I'm sorry,
13.2.
13.2.
That was the cap put on by the supervisors.
Is there any other-
No, I
Mr.
don't.
Lyons, you have any-
Do you have a clerk of the works in mind yet?
We do, yes. You want to know?
I'd love to know, yes.
We're looking at Kurt Bennett. Kurt's been a long time building trades, certainly for us for years, over 20 years, and certainly does a lot of building on the side. I feel very confident he can look at a set of blueprints and translate what's on the blueprints to what's happening in the building, and be able to look out for the owner and Rockbridge County Public Schools. And help us make sure things are moving in an appropriate way.
I think you can find a better person. Would it be possible to be updated as change orders come in?
Absolutely. We hope to do it monthly regardless, but
Okay.
certainly with change orders. Yes, sir.
I had asked Dr. Thompson, I figured he'd be giving a monthly update to his board. If he could just pass that information along to us on a monthly basis.
We usually get their minutes.
Yep. Any other questions?
Only other thing, I just, RT, thank you. Davenport is, RT, Mr. Taylor does excellent work for us. And I think the strategy here in how the financing is happening is good. We're trying to, or are holding, the limit on the debt service that we have with the timing of borrowing and out years and interest rate and all that. And Davenport puts all that together just explicitly based on, some criteria that we give them, and they do.
Yep.
I'm very
Yes,
pleased.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We're happy to, happy for the faith y'all place in us, and look forward to helping y'all get through this.
Good. All right, is a motion to approve the schools to move forward with the Rockbridge Innovation Center project.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers? Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And Chair votes yes as well. Thank y'all for doing an excellent job with, I know this has been going on for 4 years because I was on the school board when we started. So excellent. And I look forward to what our students and our community will get out of it, because it'll be beneficial not only for the kids going through there, but our community, because of the jobs and all that these young people can come out of there with certificates and be able to go to work in our community and help. So,
Absolutely. It's a great thing for the school division, for the county, for the community. Thank you all so much for your support. I know we've been talking about it for at least 4 years, if not more, but it's time, and thank you all for your support and making it happen.
is I was going to mention later on in the meeting, but while you're here, you were having a groundbreaking ceremony on July 27th.
Yes, sir.
At 10 a.m.
AM at right in front of the Rockbridge Innovation Center right there, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Are we invited?
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. We'll even have a shovel for you if you want to participate.
Is there anything you need of us? Any
No,
questions?
sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project. All right, at this point, we will shift gears and move to the public hearing. The first one on the agenda is the Bella Property 8 LLC, 686 Long Hollow Road, Buena Vista, Virginia. Application for a zoning map amendment to rezone a portion of a parcel of general residential R1 zoning district to general business B1 zoning district. Mr. Sladen?
Yes, let me have a second to catch you up. Yes, sir. We have several public hearings this evening, 6 in total pertaining to the Planning and Zoning Department. Without further ado, details under the first property under consideration, of course, as stated, is Bella Properties 8 LLC. A little bit about the property itself, highlighted in orange on the map. With the property under consideration is owned by Bella Properties 8 LLC, that further identified as tax map number 77A-5-A. The property consists of approximately 0.422 acres. That's per recorded survey. Currently, the property is split zone between the residential, general residential R1 and B1. The rezoning application is a portion of the property from R1 to B1. And so with that being said, I'm gonna use my laser pointer options. This is the property under consideration here, outlined in orange on your property. Ironically enough, the business known as Pinky's, longtime business on Long Hollow Road, is located in the residential zoning district, and the vacant portion of the property is located in the business zone. So obviously this is a corrective rezoning. With that being said, on July 12th, 2023, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and has recommended approval of the rezoning application. There are no proffers associated with the rezoning application. With that being said, I'd like to turn it over to the engineer for the project, Mr. Barney Orrell.
Thank you, Mr. Slade.
You can do any additional details you wish or answer any questions.
So I'm here on behalf of the owner. Thank you for your time and consideration on this. As you mentioned, this is just purely a corrective zoning. The zoning doesn't match the property lines. The reason this all came about is the property recently changed hands. The new owner's looking to do a small addition to the gas station convenience store. And that's what prompted the noticing this error. So I won't bore you with any more.
Is there any questions? All right, thank you so very much. All right, any questions we have, Mr. Sladen, before we go? All right. We will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
There is no one signed up.
Is there anyone online wishing to address the board?
If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand button now. Not seeing, I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Yeah, is there anyone present didn't have the opportunity to sign up? Okay. At this point, we will close the public hearing. Is there any board discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have the Natural Bridge Christian Fellowship doing business as the Bridge Christian Academy at 21 Gilmore Mill Road, Natural Bridge Station, Virginia. Application to amend the condition associated with special exception permit for the existing private school in a general residential R1 zoning district. Mr. Sladen?
Yes, I believe it was August of last year, the Natural Bridge Christian Fellowship, DBA, the Bridge Christian Academy obtained approvals to operate a private school. Property under consideration is owned by the Natural Bridge Christian Fellowship, identified as tax map numbers 113E1-1-B3 and 113E1-1-B4. Consists of approximately 7 acres between the two parcels. The property is located in the general residential zoning district on, per section 604.04 of the regulations. Private schools are used by special exception in the R1 zoning district. On August 22nd, 2022, the Board of Supervisors approved a special exception permit with the following conditions. Number 1, school facility limited to the existing buildings and surrounding property for outdoor activities. Number 2, total number of students not to exceed 50. Number 3, the school will be limited to day students only, no boarding students. Number 4, school will be limited to kindergarten through 12th grades. Number 5, all trash will be taken directly to landfill and not county collection centers or county green boxes. Number 6, lighting shall be compliance with 1303 of the County of Rockbridge regulations. And number 7, approval contingent upon the Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, Health Department, Building Department, and the Rockbridge County Office of Fire Rescue, Emergency Management approvals and compliance with the Department of Education requirements. As far as a little bit about the application before us tonight, per condition number 2, the current special exception permit is the total number of students cannot exceed 50 students. The pending application under consideration this evening is to amend the condition to allow up to 100 students. With that, the Planning Commission on July 12th, 2023, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and has recommended to the Board of Supervisors that the special exception permit associated application to increase the number of students associated with the Bridge Christian Academy be modified to the following condition. Number 1, this is the condition that's being modified, the total number of students not to exceed 100. And furthermore, the Planning Commission motion considered stated the following language. Furthermore, all conditions to remain in full effect. With that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Wes Gelford, president of the Bridge Christian Academy. Come on up.
Thank you guys for your time. We was here in August and we thought that we had a 5-year plan in order, and praise be to the Lord. We have already almost maxed that out, and I wanted to be good as my word to come back and get further permission to have more students. So if you guys have any questions, I'll answer those at this time.
Any questions? I don't think so. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
questions for Mr. Sladen before we open public hearing? All right, we will open public hearing. Is there anyone signed up to address?
Yes, first up is Mr. Corbin Pedersen.
Good evening, Torben Pedersen, Natural Bridge District. I speak in favor of the change to the special exemption permit. The academy is an excellent facility, and the teachers and personnel down there are just fantastic. And that's about all I have to say. Please approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anyone else signed up?
That is all that's physically signed up.
Anyone present not have the opportunity to sign up, wishing to address the board? Anyone online wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
All right, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Is there any board discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I have one minor comment. There is some minor corrections, updates to the ordinance that has been recently posted on the board docs, but they were essentially some spelling and other minor comments. The substance is the same.
Okay. Sorry. No. Is there a motion to approve the updated with the updated comments that Mr. Sladen just?
So moved.
All right, is there a second? All right. Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Day, Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have the Virginia Electric and Power Company, DBA Dominion Energy, Virginia, 5000 Dominion Boulevard, third floor, Glen Allen, Virginia. Application for a special exception permit in order to rebuild a portion of their 115 kilowatt transmission line that runs west from the Balcony Falls substation, located at 4115 Glasgow Highway, Glasgow, Virginia, to the Rockbridge Amherst County line. Mr. Sladen.
Thank you. This is a special exception permit. I do not have a formal PowerPoint presentation, but I am going to utilize the PDF on the screen. Virginia Electric and Power Company, DBA, of course, is Dominion Energy Virginia. Has made an application for a special exception permit in order to rebuild a portion of its 115 kV transmission line that runs from slightly west of the Balcony Falls substation. Balcony Falls substation is further identified as 4115 Glasgow Highway, Glasgow, Virginia, to the Rockbridge County Amherst line. And the existing right-of-way is located in the agricultural and general use districts. That's the A2 per section 603.03-9 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. Public utilities are used by special exception in the A2 zoning district. The existing right-of-way meanders on the north and south side of Glasgow Highway, Route 501. All rebuild work is within the right-of-way, with 4 of the existing galvanized steel lattice towers proposed to be rebuilt with steel monopole structures. 1 new monopole structure is proposed. So to get everyone oriented here, this is the substation that I think a year or 2 years ago obtained approval to be rebuilt. So when I say slightly west of the existing substation, that is this number 1 that is proposed to be modified. Number 2 here, number 3 here, and number 4 there. Those are all existing towers, and then they are going to be replaced. And there is 1 new proposed tower located almost right on the Amherst Rockbridge line that's identified in yellow here. On July 12th, 2023, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and has recommended approval of the special exception permit with the following condition. Number 1, substantial compliance with the location, heights, and tower materials as shown on the development plan entitled Balcony Falls to Skimmer Rebuild Project, Rockbridge County Structure Heights, showing the proposed rebuild for 26-269, 141-1, 141-2, 141-3, and 141-3A. With that, I'd like to turn the floor over via Zoom to Miss Lane Carr with Dominion Power representing the project. Ms. Carr, if you could just let us know you can hear us. We can confirm we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. And what I'm going to do
Okay.
is I'm going to share my screen. and turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm trying to put my video on. I'm not sure if you all can see me or not. But yeah, Chris, thank you. You described it pretty well. Dominion Energy is rebuilding an approximately 9-mile long transmission line, a very short segment in Rockbridge County. The rest of the line runs east and southeast through Amherst and Bedford counties. Like you said, only 5 structures in Rockbridge County are going to be rebuilt. 4 of those are existing structures, existing lattice tower structures. And those 4 new structures that are being replaced will be weathering steel monopole, as you can see on the screen there. I think you all have seen some of our rebuild projects in the area. I'm sure driving around, the weathering steel is meant to blend in better with the natural environment. And the new structure, 141-3A, will also be weathering steel monopole. Structure heights will increase slightly, but no new right-of-way is needed. And with that, I would be available to answer any questions. Thanks for showing that, Chris.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Carr? All right, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sladen before we have a public hearing? Okay.
Mr. McDaniel, I'd just like to acknowledge Ms. Hackney, Sarah Hackney's with Dominion Energy. Also, she's our new external affairs representative, and she took the time to come down and be here in person since Ms. Carr couldn't be. So I just wanted to introduce her to the board and let you know she's not the engineer, but she can, if there's ever questions or we have concerns, she'd be our contact person. She's been very helpful with a couple of questions I've had so far. Yes, ma'am.
All right, we will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
There's no one physically signed up.
Is anyone present didn't have the opportunity to sign up? Is anyone online wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
All right, at this time, we will close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Thank you, Mr. Carr. Ms. Carr, sorry about that. And
Thank you.
Ms. Carr, I'd just like to say thank you again also for the depth of information shared initially. It really helps us understand better what the project is.
Great. Glad to do it. Thanks for Rockbridge County's efficiency. You are a great county to work in. So thanks. Have a good night.
next up, we have Rockbridge County, 150 South Main Street, Lexington, Virginia, application for a zoning text amendment to modify section 302.00 definitions and section 605 general industrial I-1 zoning district of the regulations. Mr. Sladen?
Yes, the next three public hearings are all associated with zoning text amendments. The first one defines and provides for train stations in the industrial zoning district. As discussed in the past, we have a landowner in the northern part of the county that is interested in developing and operating a train, what I've referred to as a train station for tourist-oriented directional or tourist-oriented train travel, if you will. And so similar to what they have in Cass, West Virginia, you're not traveling necessarily, but more for pleasure. With that being said, when I started the conversations with the landowner, we started looking at the permitted uses and uses by special exception in the industrial zoning district. And we had other similar, well, we had truck stops, truck relay stations. I think there's some bus station language in here, but we didn't have anything for trains. So with that being said, if and when the project move forward, this will give a path forward, if you will. So what it does is it provides for under 607.02 -25, it provides for train station and or train depot. So obviously it could be one or the other or both. And then it goes on to define a train station under 302.211A as a railway facility or area where trains stop to unload or load to load or unload passengers or freight with associated parking area, and may include tickets, offices, restaurant, luggage check-in facilities, and similar uses. That would obviously be a train station. with research, train depots are a different use associated with a train station, but a train depot would be defined under 302.217B as a place where locomotives and or train cars are housed when not in use and or repairs and maintenance occur. With that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions. In this next couple, I don't turn the floor over to anyone, but Ms. Huffman, of course, and I are here to answer any questions on board behalf.
Anyone have any questions, Mr. Slayton? All right. Hearing none, we will open up the public hearings. Anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
No, sir, there's no one signed up at this time.
And anyone present didn't have an opportunity to sign up? Anyone online?
No, sir.
All right, at this point, we'll close public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have Rockbridge County, 150 South Main Street, Lexington, Virginia, application for a zoning text amendment to modify section 608 flood hazard FH-1 overlay district of the regulations. Mr. Slayton.
Yes, this is the same zoning text amendment. And usually these are propelled forward by a particular case or particular project coming down the pipeline. In this particular case, there was a gentleman also in the northern part of the county that wanted to operate a wedding event venue in the floodway. So looking through the to back up a little bit, every zoning district in Rockbridge County, as you know, has permitted uses and uses by special exception, and that whether it's agricultural or industrial or anywhere between. But then also once you get into the floodway, the flood hazard overlay, particularly the floodway, you also have uses by special exception and permitted uses. So currently that falls under 608.11 floodway, and then it goes on 608.11-1. 1 through 4 lists the permitted uses in the existing floodway. There are obviously open space uses such as agricultural, recreational, and accessory uses to residential and accessory uses to commercial. Then you get into 608.11-2, 1 through 7. And they list the uses by special exception. So what we have proposed is a fairly simple text amendment as far as the text itself goes, and that would be adding special events. We of course define special events in the definition chapter already, but there are no provisions for special events in the floodway. And so what this does is modifies number 5. What this proposes to do is modify number 5 to include temporary uses such as circus, carnivals, special events, of course added in red because it's new, and similar activities. With that, I'm here to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for Mr. Slayton?
Do we have any prospective circuses in the pipeline?
Not in the floodway that I know of.
Usually every other Monday here in this.
Yeah.
It was mentioned that, wedding event venues can be circuses. And so could the zoning administrator make that distinction? I was not comfortable in that. I thought this was a better path forward.
Yeah, any other questions for Mr. Slayton? Anyone? All right, at this point, we'll open up a public hearing. Is anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
There's not, no, sir.
Anyone online?
No, sir.
Anyone present didn't have the opportunity? All right, we'll close public hearing. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
And a second? All right. Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have Rockbridge County, 150 South Main Street, Lexington, Virginia, application for a special zoning text amendment to modify section 302.00 definitions in section 702.00 additional buildings on single lot of the regulations. Mr. Slayton.
Yeah, so this one, the planning, this hasn't been propelled forward by one particular project, if you will, unlike most of the zoning text amendments we do. But we have gotten this, the Office of Community Development have gotten this question over and over for a very long time. And so we're interested in pursuing additional amendments to accessory dwelling units, ADUs, defining and providing for guest homes, and garage apartments. With that being said, obviously the one in front of y'all this evening solely pertains to garage slash apartment. So to back up a little bit, we currently allow for additional dwellings on a single lot. And that's exactly what section of code you're looking at here on the screen is 702. However, they have to be, the arrangement of such additional lot is in such a manner that it has to be subdivided in terms of area and setback requirements. So the area of the underlying zoning district, it could be, a half acre for a residential zone or acre for a residential zone on a well and drain field. More commonly, because there's just more land in an agricultural zone, it's a 2-acre lot size and it'd be 100 feet of between those two houses. So it's not very conducive for a garage to be 100 feet away from an existing house in some cases. With that being said, the proposed definition amends section 702 as shown on the screen that provides for 702.01-4 that would state, that proposes to state that the garage apartment are required to meet the area and exterior setback requirements as a primary dwelling for the underlying zoning district. The garage apartment that does not meet the internal setback requirement shall be considered an accessory structure. It goes on to say that only one garage apartment, only one garage slash apartment slash dwelling shall be located on a single parcel of land. That was something that was also problematic. You can have multiple accessory dwellings, you can have multiple accessory structures on your property, but this clarifies it that you still can have obviously multiple accessory structures, but this one clarifies that you can only have one garage apartment slash dwelling. So the definition of a garage, the proposed definition of a garage apartment slash dwelling is covered under the proposed 302.19. It says a structure above a private garage containing one dwelling unit, provided that the square footage of the garage and apartment slash dwelling is less than that of the primary dwelling. With that, I'm here to answer any questions the board may have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Slayton?
I apologize. Back up a little bit. On July 12th, 2023, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and has recommended approval.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Slayton, I would like to compliment the Planning Commission and the Office of Community Development in looking at these zoning text amendments, which I know are 3 of the most hated words that you hear. But I appreciate the common sense approach to this, and that's what's driving it. That being said, and I know there's been some discussion about my question, but in 702.01-4, as it's being proposed, the word shall is used instead of may. I think that was discussed at the Planning Commission level.
It was discussed, and it was, if I recall correctly, the staff's original definition include the word may, and the Planning Commission recommended that would be to be a shall. And obviously there's a may, there is some flexibility there. A shall is not flexible.
I strive to support the Planning Commission as that's what they are trained to do, and they spend hours doing that. But I personally would be more comfortable with may there, just for my peers to hear that's my thought. I hate to bring that up since the Planning Commission did the work, but that's just what I would rather go back to what staff suggested in that case. And that is something that could be changed, right, Chris? Now, or does it go back, or what's if we were going to do that?
Go through the same process. You can make a change.
If it's less restrictive, would we consider this less restrictive than, well, for the advertisement purposes, I think we're absolutely fine on the advertisement purposes. And I think you have the flexibility to make the change in this public hearing or in this process.
Well, if it was recommended by the staff, can you tell me why you recommended, can you give us a little backup here?
Well, it's
why you recommended.
It's, in my mind, it doesn't, well, I have to be careful with this. So it still requires, I'm looking at this and what it does and what it doesn't do. So it still requires that you have the overall acreage. It still requires that the exterior setbacks are met as a primary dwelling, meaning that the exterior setback, I'm going to use an agricultural zone, for instance, I'll be a 50-foot side yard and a 50-foot rear setback for the garage / apartment. However, this one states, now we're getting to the question at hand, garage apartment that does not meet the internal setback shall be considered an accessory structure. And so what that means is you are not required to have that 100 feet, because again, the original additional dwellings on a single lot, it requires that it's able to be subdivided in the future, meaning 100 feet between the houses, because you have a 50-foot setback to your imaginary new lot line, then another 50 feet to the edge of this garage / apartment.
So it doesn't sound like there's any may about it. It is shall in that context, isn't it? I mean, or am I missing something? I don't understand why.
In that context, I read them to have the same meaning.
I agree. I agree.
Well, then shall is fine. Is there any reason to?
It reads better to have may,
That's it?
I think, but the term shall is, it's more,
Or you can interpret it may not. Where
It definitely would be.
you can
It may-
interpret shall not.
Yes, that is correct.
So I would do as they directed and leave shall in.
It does provide for less ambiguity for sure. The shall provides for less ambiguity, and landowners would still have the right to have 100-foot and it not be considered accessory structure. But that's exactly how it reads. I think that's a good point, because if it's 100 feet away, this is null and void, if you will. But if it's less than 100 feet away, then it shall be considered accessory structure.
Exactly. Okay.
I disagree. And the concept is, why I bring that up, is the same as a special exception process to me. So I would like to have the landowner have as much, their property rights have as much possibility as possible. So that I'm sticking with my desire to have may, but that's what we're here for, to discuss.
Any other questions of Mr. Sladen? All right, at this point, going to a public hearings, anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
There is not, no, sir.
Anyone online?
No, sir.
Anyone present and not had the opportunity to sign up? All right, we will close the public hearing. As far as board discussion, I believe you've heard the word may or shall. Is there any conclusion before I ask for a motion so that it can be included? I believe we have Mr. Lewis at may. I believe I heard Mr. Lyons at shall.
I'm at shall.
Today.
Shall.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve as presented? Because shall is in there as presented, correct?
So moved.
Correct, yes.
All right, and a second?
Second?
All right. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Nay.
And chair votes yes. All right, thank you, Mr. Sladen.
Thank you.
Let's see. Let's get back. I believe we are at item number 9, consideration of surplus resolution.
Yes, sir. First, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for approving in this year's budget a second IT person. This is related to that. Just asking the board's approval to surplus some old furniture. So that it's a very tight space. So we've ordered new furniture that's more conducive to having 2 people in that tight space. And it's old, not just, it's old and actually in the sense of it's kind of haphazard furniture. And so we're asking that your permission to surplus this on GovDeals.
Is there any questions of Mr. Harrison? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for surplus?
So moved.
And a second? Second. All right, Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have consideration of resolution of Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act. Mr. Suter?
Yes, county's been part of this program for many years. It's a program to serve vulnerable youth in our area and in our region. Included in your package is an email from Ms. Shirley Thompson from the DJJ that outlines an action requested by the DJJ to assure the county's continuing participation in the program. The program includes jail diversion programs, electronic monitoring, courses to combat substance abuse, and other programs for youth. As of late last or a year ago, the city of Lexington actually was administering this program and supervised the staff associated with the plan. Thus is why it was named the Lexington Combined VJCCA. These programs have been offered to an employee of the county, and today the program management supervision is provided by DJJ. As noted in your package, the city of Lexington has still retained responsibility for serving as fiscal agent for the program. There is a resolution in the email provided from Ms. Thompson. It's attached. The sole intent of the resolution is to assure that 100% of state funds that have been set aside for this program are received and are those that are received are available for the services provided locally. All program participants, including Allegheny County, Botetourt County, Rockbridge County, cities of Buena Vista, Covington, and Lexington, have been requested to approve this same resolution. The request is to approve the resolution and direct me to remit an executed copy to DJJ that essentially says that we want to stay in the program. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just be administered by the state, correct? I mean,
It's being administered by the state. The fiscal agent is Lexington still
okay.
for the region.
All right. Is there any questions of Mr. Suter on that? If not, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have consideration of the HVAC contractor county administrative office building. Mr. Harrison?
Yes, sir. Staff submitted a request for proposals to do both preventative and on-call services for this building. We received 3 proposals, and it was unanimous to recommend Southern Air. That contract has been reviewed by Ms. Huffman, and also we did put on board docs the pricing on there. Just want to add that so you can see that.
Any questions for Mr. Harrison? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have consideration of the FOIA policy amendment. Ms. Huffman?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in 2016, the legislature required local boards to adopt a FOIA rights and responsibilities statement or notice and to appoint a FOIA officer in accordance with new requirements for posting on the county website. The county did adopt that notice statement. And so in the 2023 legislative session, the General Assembly made an amendment to the code provision relating to this notice of FOIA rights and responsibilities. It now requires a written policy explaining how the public body assesses charges for accessing or searching for requested records and noting the current fee charged, if any, for accessing and searching for such requested records. I've therefore prepared for your consideration a revised version of the FOIA rights and responsibilities. It adds only one section, which is highlighted on page 4 of the document posted on the agenda. It notes that the county does not charge a fixed charge. Charges are based on the hourly rate of the person searching for the records, and to keep costs down, the county attempts to use the lowest paid staff members who can do the retrieval to do that, and for their hourly rates to be used rather than the higher hourly rates. In situations, however, where a staff member is required to search through his or her own files and electronic records such as email, that staff members' rates are what will have to be used. Then we go on with other information about the county's charges, which was already in there, and explains what the cost per page are, and the exemption for the first hour of search time. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, or and if it's acceptable, I'd ask that the board adopt the amended notice of FOIA rights and responsibilities.
Any questions, Ms. Hoffman?
Something, did we identify the human resources director when we adopted this as the FOIA officer?
We did.
Okay.
And in May, we noticed that her name had not been corrected, and so we made an amendment then, but it was not substantive for purposes of the policy. So that was just done for information on the website to correct her name.
Is that common in other jurisdictions to have the human resources person be that? Do you know?
It's common to have someone. It's helpful to me because if I am giving advice to a staff member or the FOIA officer, I'm giving that advice to someone else rather than my making the decision. I could not, if it were ever challenged, I wouldn't be representing a staff member. I'd be acting.
We need to hire a lawyer to represent you.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's one of the things we took into consideration when that decision was made, and Ms. Hoke accepted that. It does take up some of her time when we get these, but we have to have someone coordinating this.
And she does the annual training to ensure that she complies, and whenever there's a question, it still does come to me.
How much time does it take out of her day for that?
It comes in waves. Sometimes we have had situations where it has taken days. But that is not the norm. That is usually when there's some controversy percolating.
Some larger localities, like in Northern Virginia, they have an entire office of people dealing with FOIA requests.
Luckily, that's not us. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the amended FOIA rights and responsibility statement?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Next up, we have consideration of the CSPDC agreement for transportation chapter of the comprehensive plan. Mr. Sladen?
Yes, as board members know, with the Office of Community Development is currently navigating through the update to the comprehensive plan. Our goal still is to have that done by the end of the calendar year. We're wrapping up the community facilities chapter, and then the two additional chapters we have is the land use chapter and the transportation chapter. As we've done in the past, we're respectfully asking that we could utilize the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission's expertise in updating the comprehensive plan chapter, the transportation chapter associated with the comprehensive plan. And in front of you, you have a draft agreement that provides the understanding, if you will, of their responsibilities. So there's our goal to have them do essentially a turnkey operation on the transportation chapter.
Any questions for Mr. Slayton? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agreement?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Next up, we have consideration of economic development strategic plan. Ms. Plant?
Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your time this evening. I'm going to keep this short and sweet since this is an agenda item you have seen a lot over the last year. One of the first goals that I set for myself in the community or in the Economic Development Office was to establish the county's first economic development strategic plan, and that is what is in your package tonight. The plan includes goals and objectives for me to complete over the next 2 years, and it's accumulation of efforts, meetings, input and data from community members, boards and commissions over the last year and a half. So if you are okay with the plan, I would just ask that you adopt the plan as presented tonight if there are no further questions or comments.
First off, I would just like to say thank you. I know being on working with you on the board and the committee members that you went out and got and solicited responses from, I know that countless hours that you put into this. It's a good document. It's a working document, a living document that's going to change, but it's a starting point and it gives us room for growth and economic development and a pathway for us here in Rockbridge County. So very appreciative of your time and effort. Is there any other comments or questions from Ms. Flint?
That's what I was just going to iterate as well. I'll reiterate it that it is a living document. Nothing is ever perfect here, but we've got something and we haven't had that before. And this is huge.
And in the plan, it is mentioned to reevaluate it every day pretty much. But it is 2 to 5 year plan with complete overhaul in 5 years.
I move we approve as presented.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
And thank your entire committee. I believe it was about 22, 25, 25 members of our community, business and professionals who came together and worked with you on that. So please pass along our appreciation. Let's see here.
Staff reports.
Yeah, staff reports. Everybody had a chance to review those. Any questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day, Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis, and Chair votes yes as well. Board comments. Again, you heard about the groundbreaking at the Innovation Center on July 27th at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're also looking at a joint meeting between the school boards and the Board of Supervisors for August 23rd at 5 o'clock at Effinger, the central office for the schools. Just if you could please check your calendars, make sure that's acceptable. If you have any issues or problems, please let me know as soon as possible. Any other comments?
Yes, I'd like to compliment our Board of Zoning Appeals. They don't get a lot of love, but they don't meet often, but when they do, they seem to go on. And their meeting the other night went into the next early morning hours. But they were very thorough, very attentive, and I thought they did a good job, as well as our zoning administrator, who was very prepared and did an excellent job representing the county.
I received 2 phone calls talking about our zoning administrator and what a professional job he did. Pleased.
I think he's all right. We might keep him around. Mr. Day, you have anything?
When did you say the joint meeting?
That would be August 23rd. I believe it's a Wednesday evening at 5 o'clock.
That has not gone out yet. We're still trying to coordinate that, but that's the date that's trying to be coordinated now.
Not confirmed.
Well, I just want to let y'all know so you could get on your calendars unless you had a conflict.
I had
Yep.
Thursday, I don't know why, but okay.
It was supposed to be on Thursday, but the school, they've got back to school nights that particular night, so we had to move it. Mr. Lewis, you have anything?
No, sir.
Are you shall or may or not say
I
anything?
was just getting ready to say,
Okay.
I shall not say it.
Ms.
I may
Huffman?
say something I shouldn't.
Make up your mind.
Ms. Huffman, you have anything?
Yes.
Mr. Suter?
No, sir.
I will say, thank you, both of y'all for all your hard work, and I hope you enjoy your vacation. Get away. Don't be answering your phone or emails.
I plan to check them periodically.
No. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Thank everyone. Please have a good night.